My friend. Today we're going to be talking about the mandolin. The mandolin is wonderful. The mandola. The last couple members only videos we've done are talking about the fretboard. Now, you might not play mandolin or banjo or the ukulele or guitar, but if you do play an instrument and you are studying some form of pedagogy, music theory, then all of this essentially should make sense. Most of this is like a recap, which means all these different terms we're going to be talking about, you should have a good explanation in previous videos, and or you already know this from your music scholastic studies, and or it just naturally comes to you. Either way, my name is Wago Howard. I do appreciate the members being on this channel and supporting. If you can, I'm going to start asking people to support me a little bit more than just what they do. Share this channel, give it to somebody else. What we're going to want to do here is we're going to want to define what the mandolin fretboard is. Now, this mandolin fretboard is different than our other frets because when we're playing in concert pitch, unlike the guitar and the ukulele, we can't just say blah, 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 blah and get our next note that's above it. And if that doesn't make sense, let me be a little bit more musically correct. When we go up fourths, that means that the positioning that we have utilizes an interval system. On most of our fretboards, what we have is a single string. Let's just call it on this mandolin the G string. Our G would go to a G sharp, and then we would go to an A. The A would go to an A sharp, and we would go to a B. The B would go to a B sharp, and then we would go to a C sharp. C sharp goes to a D. D goes to a D sharp. We then have an E. We have an E sharp. We have an F sharp. And then at the 12th fret, it returns to the same fret note that we played open. Because when we go through a minor second scale called a chromatic scale, we achieve every single note that's in a diatonic scale, but we get the notes that are in between. Therefore, what we're essentially doing is we are seeing that our instrument is no longer tuned in fourths, up four, like a guitar or a ukulele would be. In fact, even a banjo, when you think about it, that just has an open tuning, but we still view it through the eyes of the fourth and the third there. When we're doing this, we can see that our notes that make up a major scale, G to A is a major second. When we go to this half step or the minor second, we're talking about one of these notes that I called as a sharp, B sharp, or or E sharp. But essentially what we're looking for is to know that these notes are the same. Our B sharp is essentially a C natural. Our E sharp essentially is an F natural. Now each one of those has the same. This G sharp is an A flat. A sharp is a B flat. When we do this B natural right here, our B natural can also be called a C flat. These are called enharmonic equivalencies, which means that's just the pitch. Let's find it. Ooh. See, I don't have perfect pitch. I have relative pitch. I'm generally a major or a minor second off from the note I'm trying to hear. That one's a C sharp. So when we play this note, I can either call this a C sharp or I could call it a D flat. Same thing with D sharp, it can be an E flat. Our F sharp is also a G flat. Ta-da! This is how I view going up ascending, and when you go up, you call them sharp. You're raising sharply. This is called an augmentation, going up in pitch. We generally just refer to it as sharpening. When you sharpen anything, you're taking the note and going up by step. In music, the first step is a minor second. When we see these minor seconds, it will be a note that is touching another note. They are one of two notes in music that touches. The other one is called a major second. So a minor second or a major second. One has a feeling of G to A, the other one is a feeling to G to A flat. A full step, a tone, or a half step, a semitone, or a minor second. So when we're seeing going up, we're seeing it as going sharp. When you're going down, you're seeing it as being flat. Now, what I would say is there's no real right or wrong way to do this as long as you know that an E sharp is an F. That an F flat is going to be an E. If we could get that inside, we're only going to be able to see all the different notes here and be able to tell what these are on our fretboard. So without further ado, let's throw in the other 3 lines and explain why this instrument is tuned in fifths rather than fourths. When this is tuned in fifths, we are going on this G line and we're going to walk it up. Now walk it up with me. Here we go. Let's see if I can multitask. Going to the channel. Here's a major second, minor second. So that's 1, 2, 3. And now we're going to need to go up another one. When we go up another note, we find ourselves on the D. The D note is the next string above on the mandolin. So when I write my D right here and put another string, please bear in mind that the notes that I'm doing here on a mandolin or a mandola, yes, they are strung as 2 strings. So that 2 string is going to be placed right here. We're just not writing those out. Does that make sense? This is our D. Above this, we're going to have our A. And the reason why, if we just simply do this in the same scale location and put this, it'll all make sense that D goes to our D sharp. Then we have an E. Here's our E sharp. Here's our F sharp. Here's a G. Here's our G sharp. And then we have our A. Some people ask me, never, hey Wago, why do you put sharps and why don't you just put F here? Well, essentially I know it's an F. Most people don't know that's an E sharp. When you go up and you show them as an E sharp and you go down either way, I could have gone D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, that's fine. But the more times you say it as E sharp, it becomes a little bit easier to understand what that note is. And in keys that have E sharp, it will become apparent that you need to know that these notes work in these keys. After we do our A, we can go to our A sharp to a B, B sharp, C sharp, and then our C sharp goes to a D. If we go back and we write these enharmonic equivalencies in here, we have the same thing that we found here, our E flat. These are the distances where we start to look at the different quadrants of where we can play the same chords or triads and get the same result. The whole idea about this music theory thing is you do one of these ideas at a time and it becomes a little easier. This E natural right here can also be considered a F flat. This E sharp is an F natural, F sharp is a G flat, G nat. This G sharp is an A flat, A sharp is a B flat. Of course our B is a C flat, our B sharp is a C natural, C sharp is a D flat, and then D, you can even call the D an E double flat. Most people don't know that besides just the sharps and just the flats, if a note does not have a sharp or a flat, it's called a natural. Natural notes. We also have something called a double flat, and then we have something called a double sharp. Between these 5 pieces, we have all of our accidentals. This is our notation that we put in front of notes, both namesake and then the notes themselves on a stave. If we were playing in the key of F, and we wanted to play this note as being a B natural and not a B flat, we would need to put the accidental before the note. That's how it works. When we're looking at our staff and we go to the next note, we found that the A string was above because it is out a 5th. D to E is a major 2nd. F sharp, this is going to be a major 3rd. When we go to the G, that is a perfect 4th, and then this is a perfect 5th. If we play our A line and go all the way up to A at the 12th fret, we have the same thing starting from here and then continuing from here, like half and half. A is going to go to A sharp. Now let me draw these frets all the way out. It's trying to drive me crazy. Usually I draw the whole fretboard. I would suggest getting a music notebook and doing this. And again, if you don't play mandolin, that's fine. But drawing this out, it changes the way you think about your own musical pedagogy, I guess. A sharp goes to our B. This is our B sharp. C sharp, D, D sharp, E, E sharp, F sharp, G, G sharp, And then we have A. If we go back and we put our N harmonic equivalencies, we've got our B flat. Our B natural is a C flat. Our B sharp is a C. Our C sharp is a D flat. Not a P. Ow! D is a natural. You call it E double flat if you want. I just want to muck up the board. When we do our D sharp, it's an E flat. Our E natural here can be considered natural on its own. Our E sharp here is an F. So our E here we can do as an F flat if you want it. Our F sharp, of course, is a G flat. G goes to G sharp, and G sharp's N harmonic equivalent is, of course, A flat. The diminished version of the A. When we go to our next line, I know if anybody's hanging out here in the comment section, you can see clearly that if we go up another fifth, we can watch ourselves playing in the key. And when we play in this key, we go all the way up to what? Yeah, when we go up to this note, it's going to help us to see that we can change where the values of these intervals are. The reason why it's being, the reason why we say it's tuned in fifths is because it is not tuned in fourths. And I know that kind of doesn't really make sense until you see it through the eyes of, oh, now I know 2 fretboards. The reason why this one is a little different is because of that. When we go up to the next note, we're going to layer it up here. Throw our E in. Our E goes to our E sharp. We have an F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, B sharp, C sharp, D sharp, and then we get to our 12th fret E. This allows us to see all of our chromatic notes inside the scale of E. If you want to just view it as a major, you can do that. E natural, E sharp right here is a F natural. This is our, this could be considered an F flat, as we said. A could be considered a B double flat. This, or G, is that right? Yeah, B. This is an E double flat. G is an A double flat. See how we're doing that? When you do this is a G flat, A flat. You could also call this as being an A double flat if you wanted to. Here we go, B flat. Our B is actually a C flat. Our B sharp is a C natural. C sharp is also known as a D flat. D is known as an E double flat, or a D sharp is an N harmonic equivalent of an E flat. This is how you draw out your entire mandolin fretboard. I guess what we would have to say here is, like, once you can write this out a few times, the next thing is to start doing scales. And that's kind of where I want to talk about today on the mandolin, tying it back into our ukulele, tying it back into our guitar, and then putting a little, how would I say this, a little gravitas on where notes and octaves are. So we already know one very standard concept about the fifth, but if we don't know what the notes are inside of a scale, this might be a little bit confusing as well. Much more than it is already. Right? So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about our 1. Oh, what a nice warm pen this is. Our 2, which is called the major second. Our 3 chord, which is called the major third. 4 chord, which is called the perfect fourth. Our 5 chord, it's called the perfect fifth. We've got our 6, that's our relative minor, or our major 6. And then our major 7 has our little diminished mark. When we write out the key of G major, we write it out with the 1 sharp G major possesses. C has no sharps and flats. So when we say C, we say C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. When we say G, we say G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. Now each one of these notes is on this mandolin fretboard. In fact, it's on all the fretboards of every single instrument. The only instruments that wouldn't possess this exact same setup are instruments that have alternate tunings, or they are not Western instruments, meaning they are Eastern instruments and they have a microtonal instrument setting, meaning the intervals between 1 and 2, or 1 and half step, minor second, have different variances of frequencies. They have, on a guitar, ukulele, mandolin. Actually, I don't know if I've ever seen a mandolin which has microtonal. That would be very interesting, a microtonal microtonal mandolin. If anybody has ever seen one, put one in the comment section. I would love to see that. Anyway, let's see here. If we're talking about just theory, music theory, chordal theory, if we wanted to look at this as having a little bit of structure, you could see building a G major chord, putting a G natural. It's not on the treble clef. The first G that you play when you play the mandolin is this note. Now this note that we're playing is a G note. But if we were to go to the treble clef, oh, that's in a really bad position there, isn't it? If we were to go to the treble clef and play that note, that G note right there, we would find that this note has to have relativity to where middle C is. Now, if we know our treble clef, we know that middle C is right here, and that there is a G right here. That's a fifth above. Middle C sounds like this. So the G above middle C sounds like that. And the note we're hitting is that note. So what we're doing is we're playing a G3. Now, without needing to write our bass clef below, if you don't know what a bass clef is, the bass clef in the Western ear is generally the one that's associated with the treble clef. One being the higher range and the latter, or the former rather, being the lower range. It's going to be the lowest extreme, like baritone, bass, tenor. With this note of the G note, this is our G4. And we're not looking for a G4, folks. We're looking for a G3, which means we're going to need to go below, and I'm not going to write the bass clef out. One, because we're right here. So I'm just going to get rid of that. I'm going to get rid of this. And I'm going to take this and I'm going to put 8 V or BV. Actually, let's not do that. I'm not going to show you voice above and voice below. How about we just do ledger lines? Let's walk it. Ready? G, F, E, D, C, B, A, G. Now, this G is below the A line here, which means if you can visualize C, E, G, right? You can see that this is an octave or a P8. 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7, 1. I don't know why I sang a minor. We're talking about major. G, A, B, C, D, E, F, sharp, G. When we're doing this, we can see that our octave goes to G. This is the G3 that we were looking, or G3 goes up to a D note, but G golly whiz. What is that D note? Well, let's hear it. Let's play around with the piano. Let's see what it sounds like here on our mandolin. G, here's our D. Well, when we go to our G3 and go up to our D3, we get our note. Now, this is great because the D3 is easy to write. Boom, right now. D3. Our next note is going to be an A. If we keep walking, if we walk up from our D and go to our A, we have ourselves an A4. A4 is right here. And what we're talking about with these descriptive notes, like an A4 or an A5, these are ranges. This is where they fall. There are only 8 given ranges on a piano, and we would see them as being the lowest, and then we see it as being the highest. So on mandolin, you've got a pretty good range. A, B, C, D, E. When we play E, this is an E5. Why? When we play G, it's a G3. We have a D4. I'm sorry, I don't know why I put that. D4. C4, we have an A4, and then when we go past our C5, the next E is going to be in the 5th octave range. When we play the mandolin, this is what our instrument sounds like being played open. And for those of you who have heard a violin or played violin, this is exactly what a violin is tuned to. So if you are interested in playing the violin, but the bowing terrifies you, maybe mandolin is a great instrument to play in lieu of or in addition to, maybe first or second. When we play chords, there are not only just one way to play them, but we can find a multitude of ways to play them. The chord I'm playing right now is called a G major, because as it stands, we have a low G, we have a D. We're going to be putting our first finger down on the 2nd fret, taking our A past the A note, A sharp, B. On the top E string, E, we have our E sharp or F natural, F sharp, and then a G. When we play these two notes, G natural, B natural, along with the 2 open strings, we get a G major. And the reason why we get that chord is because when we look at our fretboard, we are seeing these lay themselves out in front of us. Here's our G, here's our B, here's our D and our G. Alternatively, you can put a finger down on this G and this D. This allows us to get chords that if you've been playing a little bit of music here and there, you know that sometimes chords are considered staccato chords. Sometimes they can be played as legato, meaning one is open and airy. It's hard to make this chord that has a G on the bottom, G major in root position. It's kind of hard to do this one. We've got this G right here, and then to get a staccato, we would have to do a palm mute or a finger mute. To truly do another finger, by skipping a finger and a fret and moving that over, we would get our G, G, B, G. And then lastly, if we stretch that pinky, we get ourselves walking up. We have a D, D, G, B, G. This is a full scale chord. On how to play this, you get these cool, really kind of short staccato chords. And because the mandolin itself is a percussion instrument, believe it or not, it's not really meant to be a tonal value. Bluegrass itself, during the age where Appalachian and bluegrass style instruments were starting to make an insurgence through culture, rather than just being popularized with the bourgeoisie or the people who were considered affluent, had money, the rich. These instruments started to make their way through the poor circles, and when they made themselves available, because there became more people that were crafting and creating these items, they were more accessible. They actually were changed the way that they were played and the way that they looked. The original mandola looked a lot like a violin. In fact, even had these huge overlying arch, had huge F-holes because it was hard to get up underneath there and set the bridge and make sure that the 2 sides of the body don't collapse together under the weight of the strings being taut. Very cool that it's tuned like the violin, but you don't necessarily need to play it like the violin. It's easier on the fingers and the chords are still the same. So what we try to do is look at stuff like this and learn some rudimentary chords and see where their notes are and make correlations about how to practice the practice of practicing. That's kind of what I teach, so that's what we're going to end on here in our last 10 minutes. From this point forward too, all these videos that are for the member series are not going to be an hour long. They're going to be a half an hour. What I find is there is a plethora of information that is located inside of these videos. I'm hoping that the members don't get overwhelmed with it, but these are to be watched over and over and over and over and over again, and maybe to comment about. If you are super advantageous, try to timestamp these. Not only will that be great for you, but it'll be great for the other participants. When we're playing this, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp is going to be our 7-note scale. On our mandolin, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, open A, D, I'm sorry, a B, C, D, open E, F sharp, G. Now you can go up another one to A. Heck, you could even stretch to B. But the idea is if we play do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, re, mi, we've got a pretty huge extended range by never moving from our first quadrant. I gotta say, just to take a quick break, I despise technology. I can't seem to figure out how to get this iPhone that's attached to OBS from not zooming. And when it does zoom, it zooms in on nonsense. It just zoomed in on nonsense. If anybody knows how to change the zoom rate ratio on OBS, please put it in the comment section. Thank you. When we're playing do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, that is a octave scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 1. Notice how when I'm playing this, if you watch my channel, I show you how to play spider exercises. The whole point of spider exercises are to get your fingers able to move up and down our fretboard without having a lot of struggle. They're no-brainers, and they're not really shooting for anything musical. If you want to make it fun and creative, you can do like 1 finger, 3 finger, 2 finger, 4 finger. These will lead to cool melodic movements later in understanding your fretboard, and they're great to get exercises on your fingies. So being able to look at this from the eyes of the fretboard is really the step we're doing. And today what I want to do is just explain a couple ideas that hopefully stay with you for the rest of your life. One, music is always viewed through the eyes of the major. Meaning, regardless if I'm playing G minor, I'm always going to be thinking about G major. The reason why we have the ability to see a major scale is we have the G, A, B, C, D, right? We have D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D. A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, A, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, E. When I go and I play a whole step from G to A, you get a major second. A goes to B, B goes to C, C goes to D, D goes to E, E goes to F sharp, F sharp goes to G. Each one of these has an interval onto which you can see a scale being laid out this way. This is what you call a major second, capital M, and a 2. This is what you call another major second. When we do the next step, we are not playing a major second, but we are playing a minor second. Little m, big old 2. There is only one more of those, and it's right here. Little m, big old 2. Minor second, or a semitone. When we're doing the rest of these intervals, the intervals are major seconds. These are all going to be full steps, whole steps, tonal steps. Whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. When we do this for every single note that is an open string, and it goes to the octave for a P8, an octave, we can see that the scale can be played this way, or it can be played this way. This is a horizontal way to look at it. This is a vertical way to look at it. Our D in the key of G major would also be part of the D, E, F sharp, G. A, B, C, D. A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, A. E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, E. I understand that this looks interesting and difficult, but if you're just tuning in and you're watching this, I can understand where you're like, yeah, I get it. What is this? But if you watch from the beginning, you can realize that every single one of the things that we've gone through today has a rhyme, has a reason. The entire point of seeing the mandolin in the eyes of G major, viewing it through the eyes of the fifth, allows you to see triads. It allows you to see sonority, whether a triad itself is created out of a minor third and a major third, or if it's created out of a major third and a minor third, thusly switching those. One of the chords would be a major third, G to B, B to D. If we switch this major third and minor third, we get a B flat. That B flat is called a flat 3. That flat 3 is not in a diatonic scale. So to create a minor chord, you must flatten the median. And by seeing that here, you would see the B is right here, and you would move it back a semitone. When working on just the key of G major, you can play through these notes and chords. G major, you can take this major scale, change your fingerings a couple different ways, and then move this up a whole step. But music isn't major to major to major, half step, major, half step, or whole step, major, whole step. We don't have all major chords in a key signature. We've got a major chord, then we have our minor chord. Notice how I took this major note and flattened it. In the key of G major, when we move back the B natural to a B flat, we get a minor chord, or at least a minor dyad, G to B flat. So the concept is, can you play all the chords in the key of G major by looking at them on the fretboard and moving them all the way up by going G major, A minor, B minor, C major, D major, E minor, and then our F sharp diminished. We're gonna have our notes being kind of like moved out. I love to show you all the different versions of this. There are a couple different ways, but the best way to explain this is how to play an F sharp diminished. You would simply play a D major as a 7 chord. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You'd play the notes of D, F sharp, A, and then C. When you play the notes of D, F sharp, A, and C, you get this beauty, F sharp diminished, or you could just play what looks like an A major and flatten and get the minor 7th. Either one of these kind of looks the same and it goes right back to the note you want to find. So a D7 will go back to a G major. It will always sound pretty. Now, these are musical theory kind of concepts. It works with what these are in their relationships of intervals. That really is the next step in this whole process. So it would behoove you to learn the 3 different shapes that are combined in the key. So if we were to do this and we were to play something along the lines of, let's say, just the A major. If you can play an A major and play A, C sharp, and E, and you could flatten that C sharp to a C natural, you would have an A, you would have a C natural, and an E. When you flatten the 5th, the E, to an E flat and retain the same notes, you get your diminished. Now, I know it's very interesting. You would also put a double flat 7 in there sometimes for a diminished. These chords are relative to the key you're in, and we can discuss these when we're doing a deep dive on the mandolin. But if this is your first experience with the mandolin and you do not possess one, best thing to do, write out your fretboard. Start visualizing where your chords are and how to spell like an A, C, E, A. And these shapes and patterns will start giving themselves to you. If we went up and we played our B, F sharp, D, and our B, we would have a B minor. When we go up and we change it back into a major shape, we would have our notes like a D, A, F sharp, D. Each one of these is the same. If you play it here, and you can see that this finger pattern moves, skip the minor second, skip the major second, skip the major third, go to the perfect 4th, and create that major shape again. The tendency to go, oh, that's what a major third looks like. That's what a minor third looks like. when we go through the process of finding just the chords that are inside of a major key, major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished, we start to see that each key has relativity to itself. There are family chords, which makes sense. Let's learn the circle fifths. If you haven't checked out this channel and you're watching this for the first time, please do. Put something cool in the comment section. Tell me what you're working on. I'd love to help you. Other than that, if mandolin is something that you have and you're a beginner and you're working on this, check out the channel. There are probably 200-300 videos which are just talking about how to fun. E major, E minor, to a D. And then I'll do something like a G, G minor, back to D. The videos are around 4 to 6 minutes and they always talk about something new and creative and fun. Once again, my name's Wago Howard. If you dig on this, put something cool in the comment section. Tell me if you've ever played a mandolin, what your experience was, what your favorite mandolin song is, and then what time period you really enjoy. Mandolin has been around for so long, it's in a plethora of different types of musics. I like listening to jam band music. There's a gentleman named Michael Kang I think that's his name, String Cheese Incidents. Plays a long scale mandolin, very cool, kind of like a long scale Russian instrument. And then basically has a jam band aspect. It has a bunch of foot pedals and it's really fun. Has a very distinctive sound too. It's very fun to watch play. Other than that, I think this is it. We've concluded our day on the mandolin. If you dig on this, again, subscribe, share this with somebody. I know there's a lot of information on here, and the best way to learn is to timestamp, go through these concepts. And if you have a question about what any of this was, whether we're talking about our ranges, talking about how a chord is created, playing a G like this, G like this, G like this, finding that our G major can be moved up and down our fretboard and we can attain different type of chords. These are really the basic building blocks of understanding your fretboard. When you're learning this fretboard and the mandolin, the banjo and the ukulele and the guitar, putting all these together, you kind of start seeing similarities. This one's tuned in fifth, so it's a good one for the brain. Start scratching that noggin and figure out why this works the way it does. And I guarantee you that if you play 5 minutes each day, you will be pleasantly surprised at what you can ascertain. Anyway, it's been lots of fun. Aloha to you.